Welcome everybody in the name of Women in Sustainable Finance to today's event. My name is Marta Ra. I'm the co-founder of Women in Sustainable Finance, and today we are co-hosting an event with UN Global Compact.
Thank you, Marta. Also from my side, a warm welcome. UN Global Compact Network Switzerland and Liechtenstein, and there are several of our participants present in the room. One board member is even here. So we are really honored to do that together with Women in Sustainable Finance.
So for us, it's really an honor that Antonio is going to give the keynote today, because we will speak about a very important topic. Our organizations are obviously aligned with the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, and all our events are dedicated to that topic, covering it from different angles. And when I met Antonio some months ago and we said, okay, what can we do about it to support them to accelerate? He was so kind and said, okay, let's do a co-event together and let's speak about the Faster Forward initiative.
Thank you very much. Marta, can someone stop the music?
Yes, exactly.
Good. That, as background, it's fine. Okay?
All right, then
Good.
Over to you, Antonio. And once again, welcome everybody, and thank you to be on the stage, Antonio.
Okay. I have maximum 15 minutes, we said, more or less. For most of you, what I'm telling is quite known, because I realize many of you are specialists in the topics of sustainability and responsibility. The part which is interesting for me tonight is also the impact. What is the outcome from the financial sector? Just for those who do not, I ask this way, who does not know the UN Global Compact well? Some? Okay, most of you already know a lot. So I will start with the basics you all know. We as UN Global Compact, we use the term of the OECD on responsible business conduct. And if you're looking what is happening today in politics, responsibility is probably one of the core issues we have to focus on. And you are more familiar with ESG, ecologic, social and governance, and you know that came after the financial crisis 2007 to 2008, then the legislation increased and imposed, especially to the banks, more severe rules. And the G is the third part. So I start with responsible and sustainable. That's how we introduce the UN Global Compact and its 10 principles always to new companies who want to join. And we are based on the triple bottom line you all know. It's about the responsibility of the private sector, from very small to very large, to be responsible for the whole value chain. That is the basic. You will get the slides for those who want. So that's the first step. And the second one is clear. We added governance. Governance became even more relevant and is more relevant today, because you can be very strong in your operations. You balance your social balance in the supply chain, in your operations, in your distribution. You make CDP, you measure your impact on environment, climate, etc. But if the governance is not working, forget it. And that's what we are facing right now. From a multi-stakeholder world where the UN played a crucial role, we fall back in the 18th century or even 17th century, where mercantilism was core. So it's about my nation competing with all the others, and forget the global common good. Forget the Agenda 2030 and the 17 SDGs. So the question is, how do we handle that as private sector? How do we handle that as financial industry in which you all are working in? The 10 principles, you may have seen it. It was quite simple, because when the Kofi Annan launched the UN Global Compact in 1999 with a speech at the World Economic Forum to create a global compact of shared values and principles together UN and the private sector, they just took the 3 main pillars of the UN conventions. They didn't have to discuss it because they were agreed. Human rights, international labor norms, and the agenda Rio, then Rio plus 20, and now the agenda Paris 2030. And they added in 2003 the 4th pillar of the main UN conventions for the business, which is relevant for the business, the anti-corruption, which is today governance. And I will come to that afterwards. The discussion we have, that's just on the ecological side. We try to be more sustainable, but if we are serious, we are still somewhere here. We are trying to get here, but forget about that we are already regenerative as a global economy. And the question is, will the planet accept that? It's not the question whether the planet will survive. The planet will. The question is whether we as human species will survive another 200, 400 years, 5,000 years. So it's in our own interest. And what we say is we invite all companies on a voluntary basis. Now the regulation is coming, CSRD, CSDDD, etc. The banks are already quite regulated. We want to be responsible as a private sector. And I always say the UN Global Compact 10 principles, this is the ABC of decent and responsible business. It's basic, but we know even though it's basic, it's quite challenging. All of you who are working in operational industries know that. And then we added this, the Agenda 2030. It was the first time in world history that all nations agreed on a common agenda and said, these are the main challenges we face for the future, and we want to reach them by 2030. We know we will not. And the question is now but we will not forget about it, or even more, and I will come to that when I speak on Forward Faster. So these are the 4 dimensions of sustainable business, of sustainable and responsible economy and finance industry. So now the question is, global governance, is that the end? What we have seen, The conflict in Ukraine, we knew it already before. Syria, Congo, nobody speaks about it. I have seen the Congo since my time as a director of an NGO in 2000. We know that more than 6 million people were killed until now in this conflict, and nobody has seen it. So, what does the Human Rights Council do? Is it able to manage it? At the moment, it's very difficult. And how do we stop certain politicians, rulers, autocrats who just make their own rules and impose it to all the others? Is global governance at the end? That is the main question we can ask today. We as UN Global Compact say no, all the opposite. And to be honest, I was at the WEF, World Economic Forum in Davos this year, and came back with quite a bit of hope. Because there were several really top CEOs who said, no, we will continue. If Trump says there is no climate change, well, the climate change is there. Nature doesn't bother what Trump is saying. The reality is different. And the question is, do we get captured by certain tendencies, or do we go on because we know, not because we are convinced, because we know that we can't continue another 250 years with the same economic system we had, starting with coal, then other engines, fossil fuels. What do we do? Value-based management, it sounds nice, huh? Is that an illusion? Or can it be realistic? It is something in between, most probably. But someone who is not believing in something will not change anything. Climate change definitely will not disappear. And it can be, and that's for me now very important, it's a chance for Europe. We are really put into question, and I see reactions also from my children and younger people who are afraid. But let's be clear, that's not the first crisis we are facing. And we are here to resolve and overcome crises. And my prevision is, latest in 2 years at the midterms, we will see again another change. The question is, what do we do as business community? Do we stick and stand together or not? It's about risks, sure. Risk mitigation, but also risk management. You know that much better than me. That's your daily business. And for me, it's clear we must and should see it as an opportunity, as a challenge, and a necessity to go on the path of business responsibility and sustainability and stick to the global goals we have fixed. That I already say. And now, one of the questions also in the panel will be, what can we do? The question is, what responsibility do we have as individuals, as part of an organization, of a company, in political terms or whatsoever, and what can we take as a responsibility? And from my background, I'm a theologian and philosopher in my first formation. I did economics afterwards. And what is remained is a saying of St. Ignatius, who said, act always as all would depend only on you. But pray and believe if all would depend on someone else. For him it was God. And I think this reality is important. We have to strengthen each other and say we can do it together. But we have to invest and we have to be also credible in what we are doing, and we have to stand together and stick to what we believe in, realistically, rationally, but we have to go on. And that's all what is about transformational governance. This concept was developed based on the SDG 16 in the last couple of years. I was in the working group of the Young Global Compact. You know corporate governance, and I cite here the texts to give you, how much time do I have? Yeah, some 5 minutes. Huh? Just to give you the context, it's too small, you can read it afterwards and we have it online. You know that sorry. Turn it like this. Corporate governance, which is based on transparency, the guiding and strategic role of the board of directors, correct and sustainable conduct of the company towards shareholders and stakeholders, financial responsibility and the adequacy of organizational structures, with particular reference to the internal control and risk management system and decision-making processes. To be honest, that's still the mainstream in companies. It's about risk management. And then the idea comes, sustainable governance goes beyond that. It's about strengthening that first level of corporate governance with respect to the triple bottom line, the 3 other dimensions, economic, ecological, and social, plus, impact. And then the global governance goes a step further. And that's the main purpose of the Young Global Compact, World Business Council for Development and other networks, B-Lab, etc., is really inspire other companies and peers to take action to contribute responsibly with government action, state is needed, to strengthening public regulations and systems at international, national, and territorial levels. That's getting more and more difficult under the present circumstances. But we see in Europe a certain tendency with CSRD, CSDDD, which are debated now, maybe some corrections. But for me, it's clear we need a solid bottom line on which we can build on our future economy. And we need the same conditions for all companies. So that leads to the transformational governance. I don't read the whole text. It's really about how can we, as business actors, influence the public debate towards an economy which is serving the global common good by maintaining the environment. I don't like the term. I often say it's the co-environment. We are part of this ecosystem. It's not just surrounding us. We are depending on it. And we as private sector can't any longer say, well, that's the state's business and the NGOs and I don't know what. We are part of the system and are responsible. So the idea behind is that we as private sector take influence in the limits of the possibilities. And it's clear after the past weeks it's more difficult. We see already dropping back certain big AI companies who are just streamlining again, say, okay, we follow Trump, it's too risky. And that is not the end yet. So the question is, and here is again the question of responsibility, what do we do? Where do we want to go? What is the purpose of my business, of my company, and how can I influence it? I jump over that, I'm too long. There are internal actions, there are external actions we can do. There is a whole paper on that if you're more interested. That's the website. It's a toolkit which gives and supports you. And if you have questions, don't hesitate to contact me. So the business case for me is more than obvious. This is in Schipis in Wallis last year. The factory Constellium underwater after huge floods. The consequence was that, what was it? I think Porsche couldn't produce anymore their cars because certain parts in aluminium were produced here and they didn't have them. So it's clear, secure supply chains are crucial for each and every company. We have several here in the room. They know it better than me. And then the question is, what can we do? I take the example of Ukraine, which is one of the most, for us Europeans, most difficult situation because it's very close. Syria is quite far away. Congo is even further down. Sudan the same. But the question is, what do we do? That's Syria. And we can't say, that's not of interest for us companies, doesn't concern us. It concerns us whether we want or not. The question is, what can I do as a small company, as a middle-sized company and a large company? What can I do as an individual within a company? What do I want to do? And it's just an instrument, but it led me to the reflection. And the Forward Faster, now I have really to speed up, I think. The Forward Faster initiative was created 3 years ago, 2.5. The idea was, Kofi Annan's idea was, we have to push the Agenda 2030 because we are lacking behind, and the private sector has to help to implement that. And we have 5 focuses where we invite our participants to engage in action and in advocacy. And in Switzerland, advocacy is tricky because the business says we can't influence. But honestly, our offices are in the House of Economy, Haus der Wirtschaft, where we have the biggest lobby organization of Swiss economy, Economie Suisse. So we can't say that we as private sector are not trying to influence politics. We do. And the question is there also responsibility in these concerns, yes or no? The Young Global Compact invites all of us to think about it and take the responsible decision. We don't tell you what you have to do. You have to decide that by your own. But the idea is that we have these different, gender equality is a topic which is very close to you as women in sustainable finance. So these 5 fields we are pushing the companies, and that will ongo. We don't stop it. You have that, and you have also on our website, you have much more information. And these are all the companies who subscribe to it. Some may have dropped out at the moment. This list is public. That's why I'm showing it. It's on our website. Join us in moving forward faster for 2030 is the main idea behind. And then comes the last one, and with that I finish, is the Pact of the Future, launched last November or no, beginning of December, if I'm right, in New York. For those who are in the field, I recommend at least read the titles of the document, because it shows the UN is not giving up, and it's good that it's not giving up. Even politicians try to weaken it. But the world leaders pledge action for peace, sustainable development. And I think it's needed more than ever under the present circumstances. And we are really willing to contribute together with you in networks. And we will now discuss what can the private sector, what can the financial sector contribute. To be honest, I do not have the answers. We are all looking forward. And there are some of you who have large experiences, who have very smart projects ongoing. I stop here.
Thank you very much, Antonio. Now I would like to hand over to Sabrina Failo, who is not only the moderator, but also the CFO of Women in Sustainable Finance. I'm very honored to have her moderating the event today. Please meet Sabrina. And she will introduce the panelists. And at the very end of the event, maybe I'll get the microphone again from you. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So I'm going to let the panelists introduce themselves, but I'd like to start with thanking everybody here tonight. I'm really glad to see a full room here. And yes, please, we have Antonio, we already met him. And then I would like to invite Natalie Baki. And Shéhérazade Lesueur. Here we go.
There's the bell in the back.
Yeah. So thank you very much for joining me. Now it's time for the panel. We're going to deep dive on two of the main pillars that the Forward Faster initiative is actually focusing on. This is going to be gender equality and sustainable finance and investments, because these are the two topics that are actually closer to our organization. So to start with, I'd like everybody actually to have a quick introduction of yourself. Maybe just tell us who you are and how you're connected with these topics. Thank you.
So good evening, everyone. My name is Natalie. I'm a portfolio manager with Globalance Bank here in Zurich. I've been with Globalance for almost 9 years now, and I'm responsible for the management of our clients' portfolios and our 2 investment funds. Globalance has been founded in 2011, and our only offering, always have and always will, is a sustainable investment strategy with a positive impact. And I'm happy to be here, so thank you for the invitation.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Natalie. So my name is Shéhérazade Lesueur, and I'm very pleased to be with you tonight. So really thank you for the invitation. So I'm actually an entrepreneur in the entrepreneurship journey, I would say, since 5 years now. First in circular fashion, and now as an HR independent and a professional coach. But before my entrepreneurial journey, actually, I was in HR for 17 years in large organizations in Switzerland, in France, and as well in the Middle East. And I basically climbed the corporate ladder. And in my last role as an HR for corporate in Switzerland, I was also the D&I leader for Switzerland. And personally, I'm very committed to diversity in general and inclusion. I, for example, set up the Women in Tech organization in Switzerland a few years ago, but I'm not there anymore because I was too busy with my company. And I'm also involved in some women network in France and Switzerland. And I'm also the co-founder of Momentum, a non-profit organization supporting gender diversity and education. And to finish, I'm a mother of 2 teenagers, so not always super easy. I'm married, and as you can hear my accent, I'm French. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think, Antonio, you already introduced yourself. But I'm gonna start with you. You already actually mentioned it a little bit on your presentation. We've been talking about sustainable finance for many years now, but the real question is like, what can individuals do in order? What role do individuals play when we want to, get more sustainable in the financial sector?
Well, I just give my humble knowledge. You're much more experienced in that field. I always say I have to start with myself. So the question is, how do I invest my assets I have? And Sveta is sitting here. Conda is one example of impact investing, which I find very interesting. Globalance is another one. The market share of these kind of activities are still small, much too small. And I think that's the first step. The other one is, do I ask my pension fund how they invest my money? It's quite a lot. It's probably, for most of us, the biggest part of our assets we have. So that's another one. And then the third one, for me, it's, again, my personal thing. Where do I have the capability to influence and change things? But that means I have also to get informed. And that's probably the biggest challenge. I mentioned it before, we are afraid, and I have heard people who said, I don't watch any more TV and I don't read newspapers, I can't bear this threat we are seeing. I understand that from a psychological or even spiritual point of view, but if we are in responsibility, and I suppose most of you are, then we can't just look away. We have to question ourselves and then look for possibilities where we can start to influence. I'm in a privileged situation. I can speak to people like you. I'm in discussion with CEOs, with investors, with specialists. There are several here who are really top people who know a lot about it, and I have learned a lot from them. And I think that's one of the points. Let's join forces to see what we can do together.
Thank you. This actually is very interesting and leads me to my next question, that is for Natalie. Sustainable investing has been growing in the past years. However, as we know, there are still challenges. Would you like to develop a little bit more on that and tell us what are the challenges, maybe?
Yeah, so one of the main challenges we face is there is still a perception in the market that sustainable investing comes at the price of performance or financial returns, which is not the case. And a lot of investors still see sustainable investing as a nice to have rather than a must have, and we need to change that. And how can we do that? We need to demonstrate that sustainable investing is a long-term added value, and it reduces risk within a portfolio, and it aligns your strategy with global trends such as energy transition or new mobility. And another challenge we face is there is no standard metric where clients can measure if their portfolio has a positive impact. So we need to simplify the narrative for them so they can understand how their capital impacts society, our planet, and that they understand that sustainable investing is not only the right thing to do, but also the smart thing to do.
Thank you very much. I'd like now to jump into the gender equality topic. And really my question is very simple. Why are we talking about gender equality in 2025? And what can we do about it? Why are we not yet there?
Yes, unfortunately. So maybe let me start to share some compelling figures. There are many figures, but I would like to share two figures that are speaking for themselves. The first, and I only took Switzerland. The first one is a study by the Swiss Exchange that shows in Switzerland that less than 10% of CEO positions are held by women. The second one is a report that has been published by PwC that indicates that approximately 25% of the 100 largest companies in Switzerland have no woman in the leadership position, in the top management position. So now you better understand. But why? So there are many reasons, but I would like to bring my own perspective on this. So we see these figures. Of course, there have been some progress, like we see more women in leadership position. We also see more diversity program, targeted diversity programs. However, the progress is quite slow. And why it is slow, in my opinion, there are two things. The first one, which is what I call, I'm not calling, this is not me who is calling it like this, but the cultural norm. We are still in what we sometimes call patriarchal, with very male-dominated, I would say, the career. Actually, the career today, it's still a male-dominated one with the invisible rules of men. And with some still sexist, I would say, stereotype or very gendered stereotype. And I'm really not here putting men against women. It's just something that is quite invisible, but it's still here. And the second one is also what I perceived when it comes to gender diversity is the fatigue. Meaning that because we have seen more women in leadership position, because we are progressing, it's okay. And also the fact that a little bit like, I would say, sustainable finance, if we still perceive, I would say, the diversity program as nice to have or just a compliance issue, it means that each time companies are in crisis, this is the case actually since few years now, it will the budget for diversity programs will be cut. And this is for me an issue, and explain a little bit why we are still not progressing fast, I would say.
Thank you. You mentioned invisible barriers. I think there are some invisible barriers indeed for women in their careers. I'd like to ask you, how do these barriers influence the career trajectories, and how can we break them actually?
Yes. So I will mention only a few of them. And as you say, they are invisible. So even when you foster gender diversity, like me, I didn't always, I would say, saw them, because we are not always conscious about them. So, but let me share a very quick story. So this is a story of Marco and Jana. They are in their 30s. It's a couple who is married. They have one kid. They are working 100%, and they are both committed to their career. Marco is spending 45 minutes of his time on childcare and some cleaning the house, while Jana is spending 2 hours of her time each day on these family responsibilities. So obviously this disparity has an impact on Jana time for herself, for self-care, I would say, but as well on the time for professional development. And this has an impact on her career growth. I don't say that it's like this everywhere, but it's something that happens in some couples, and that even ourselves, we don't really see. So, and this has a name which is called the load barrier. So if you are interested, you can check the studies. It's a phenomenon which is known. The second one that I see in the workplace, and it's not against only women, but it's the kind of thing that we can have as a woman. It's what I call the microaggressions. So microaggressions are the daily behaviors, interactions at work, micro, so small. We tolerate them, but they have a big impact. So it can be interrupting women in meetings, or it could be dismissive remarks. And at the end, it has an impact on your self-confidence as a woman, and at the end, again, as a domino effect, impact your professional growth. And the third one, which I already mentioned in the first question, which is the gender stereotype. I give you an example. There was a study in France last year, and I was very surprised by the number. I will give you one number, which was 70% of men think that they should be the primary provider financially for the family. And this kind of bias, conscious or unconscious, influence also hiring and promotion decision at work. So this how they shape career. So now to answer positively, how do we break this barrier? The first one I think is it starts with us. So at home, how we raise our kids. I have a boy and I have a girl. I'm very, again, people are saying I'm a feminist plus. I don't think I'm a feminist plus. I just want equality again, men and women, that's it. And even if I'm like this, I unconsciously do not raise my boy and my daughter equally. I sometimes realize this. So I think this is the first thing. The second thing is also to de-bias the promotion and the hiring I would say approach we have in companies. I know there are many efforts. Nevertheless, I still hear vague feedback like she should have more leadership presence. It doesn't mean anything. And with that, it's very difficult to be promoted. So it's really important to revisit the promotion. And the first thing is also to create the space. I know we always rushing, but to really create the space for women and men to really talk. Because of course there are women network in companies as well internally. And the men are not always coming to these events and but it's important that they can really exchange, because I've really seen men realizing things that they didn't realize. They thought they were very open, inclusive, but when you explain to them what you experience at work daily, then they realize. So it's important also to have this space. And of course, training is a key for me. It's not enough; it's key. And at the end, leadership accountability, because leaders need to be accountable. I mean, the leaders from the top. So some companies are doing that, but I would think that bonuses should be tied also to gender diversity.
Thank you. I think I couldn't agree more on many of your points. And yeah, sometimes we are asked if we are only having women at our events, but actually no, it's for everybody, and we are also happy to see some men in the room. So that's really great. Thank you. I would like to head back now to more the finance and investment side. Companies do struggle in aligning their investment to the SDGs. So Natalie, what are the most common obstacles that you observe, and how they can overcome them?
So the SDG framework is really broad. So we see that companies sometimes struggle in integrating this broad framework into their core strategy. And then also, short-term financial pressure, conflicts with the long-term nature of sustainability, sustainable investing, or sustainable strategy. And again, there is a lack of reliable data where they can, focus on or measure themselves on. So as a solution, it would help maybe if they would prioritize which SDG they can integrate in their strategy, and then start, as Shéhérazade said, in the boardroom, and it should end in the day-to-day business. So it needs to be integrated in the whole decision-making process. And what might also help is, collaborations with governments, NGOs, or their peers, share ideas, find solutions together. I think collective action really helps to reach those goals.
Thank you very much. I definitely agree. And I would like now to pass to Antonio. And we talked about transformational governance, and it seems like it's gaining traction. So I would like to tell us more, what are, in your opinion, the biggest opportunities and the biggest challenges in this field?
Well, to be honest, I would like to discuss that with you here in the room. Maybe we do it afterwards, because I see the examples you were bringing both are exactly, these are the topics. How can we transform these strong cultural habits? These are habits. And you say clearly, I mean, you don't have to be a psychotherapist to realize that you are working in stereotypes, even myself. And the first time I was at ringing the bell for gender equality at 6, it's some 7 years ago, I was the only man in the room. Now it's changed a little bit, but still, even in my context, I have 2 daughters and 2 sons. We are also falling in the trap. We are discussing that and say, no. So, to be honest, I do not really have the answer. It's more about awareness. What is happening? And one thing I tell to my girls, speak up. They have learned it. They're very critical. They speak up. I'm happy about that. They're also criticizing their dad and their mother, which is important. We have good discussions on that. But now going to the financial sector, it's about the question why. It's the simple one. It's the A in the 10 principles. Why are you doing the business the way you are doing it? As an investor, as an impact investor, as a company with big assets investing in why are you investing the way you're doing it? Is it risk mitigation? Is it shareholder maximization? Or is it something else? And my position is clear, it must be something else. Economy has a purpose. So transformational governance is nothing else than to open up the radar and see the reality of this planet as it is, with all its contradictions, and then asking, and what is now my role? Is it just to govern my little company, my board of directors, my management board, my C-level team and the stuff? Or is it just Switzerland and my little company? Or is there even a purpose which goes beyond of that? So my call or our call in this approach is let's join forces together and learn from each other. Even more in this context where we see that states are closing up and following only their proper economic and power interests, which will destroy in the long run. Russia will see a huge decline in development in the next 25 to 50 years. You don't have to be a scientist, a simple economist can say it. If you invest 40% of your GNP in the army for more than 5 years, you will pay back this in the next couple of decennies with all the consequences. And the same happens in the Near East. We will pay off these debts, whether we want or not. And the question is, what do we do? What can we do? I do not have the answer. But I just know we have to sit together and look for answers together. And there are good examples. I take again those who are in the room. I saw several who are in this impact investment, in sustainable investment. So the question is, you have also to be critical against your own approach. As an NGO director, we thought we were doing with our development work, beautiful things. And then at a certain point realize the opposite of good is good intention. Because it can be completely wrong, and that's not bad in itself. But we have to be open and see what happens and then correct and adapt. It's not really an answer. It's more the way how we can go. And what I have learned in my life is that if we really exchange ideas and learn from each other, we will progress.
Absolutely. There's a lot we can do as individuals and as companies. I would like to go back to gender equality. We often assume that women are a single and uniform group. However, it's probably not. How can you ensure inclusivity when we deal and we try to work with gender equality?
Yes, exactly. Women, we are not an homogeneous group because our experience, our needs, our challenges are not the same. Where we are early in our career, or we are in 50s, or when we are coming back from maternity leave, if we come back from maternity leave. So for me, the approach is really to use the customer experience approach, or the what we call the employee experience approach, and really to look at the journey of women in the workplace, and to really see what are the key moments in their journey where we need some some targeted efforts to really support them. So one example, coming back to maternity leave, how can we support women coming back from maternity leave that they don't have to think, okay, I need to choose between my career or my family responsibilities, for example. How do you also support, for example, women in their early career to be promoted in their first role, for example? But I would say that at the heart of this approach, there is also what we call intersectionality, because we are multiple identities. So I'm a woman, I'm French, I'm 47, my parents are coming from Algeria, so I have different identities, and you all have different identities, or sexual orientation as well. And I think that the companies, when they are building the programs, should really take all these overlapping identities to be really more effective and even more inclusive.
Thank you. There is a lot that company can actually do on that, and we are actually approaching the halfway, midterm to 2030. And if we want to accelerate this progress toward the SDGs, what can investors and companies do? What action must they take now?
We really have to step it up. I mean, the next years are crucial, and we have to go from commitment to action really fast now. And we as banks, asset managers, or financial intermediaries, we have also to prioritize accountability and transparency, and not only for our clients, but also for us. How do we manage our treasury? Whom are we lending money to? And I think investors play a driving role in this whole process because they have the capital, and they can give capital to companies who have a sustainable agenda aligned with SDGs, and they can take it away from companies who do not have that. So that's really important. And it's not only wealthy individuals or institutional investors, it's all of us, every one of you. We all have a voice, and you can ask questions. And as Antonio said with the pension fund, go and ask the manager of your pension fund, is it a sustainable strategy? Or look at the retirement plan Säule 3a, is it aligned with the SDGs? So I think capital is a really powerful tool, and we must use it.
Absolutely. So I'm heading now to my last question, actually. Afterwards, I'm going to open to the public. Antonio, why should people here in the room, why should we care about transformational governance? I mean, I think you said something, but what makes it really a game changer?
Well, I think the answer you have to give. It's not me. I've told you what the intention is. It's a game changer if you're joining forces. Again, we can continue another 150 years. But then we will have the result on the plate, and it will be disastrous for our grandchildren. So if we want to be responsible, we have to look where we can make a difference. That's the only thing. And I would really ask people in here, we can do it afterwards, how do you react? In which direction do you want to go with your company as individuals, as investor, as analysts, etc.? Where do you see your possibilities? I think we need to learn from each other. I'm not here to preach. I'm here just to tell you, let's join forces.
Thank you very much. So that was my last question. I would like now to open to the public. If there is any question.
Or ideas.
Or ideas, or debates.
Many of you are doing lots of things.
I have a question.
Can you get up and tell your name?
Hi, I'm Roxana, and I'm working for BNP Paribas. And I have a question on the gender equality, because I feel like there's a lot of, I'm fatigued hearing about it, to be honest. And there's a lot of backlash as well. So, I hear a lot of my peers in the industry, complaining about women getting promoted just because she's a woman and blah, 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 blah. So I think in a way, all of this focus on D&I and all of these projects, which obviously, I also support, has created a kind of general consensus in our sector. At least I'm just speaking for my sector, which is very conservative. So that's by no means a role model. It's created this kind of consensus that like, oh, yet another woman getting promoted because she's a woman, So in a way, I think, we need to change the message and say, no, she's getting promoted because she's competent or because she's capable, because she has the right skills. But obviously, it's not so simple, right? Because a lot of these men came into these positions because, they had the right network, they were going to the right, golf club where they were giving their first board role and so on and so forth. So there's a fine line between kind of pushing or, enabling women to get into the kind of networks, so that can lead to career progression, but then at the same time not being perceived as, okay, now you're just pushing it because you need to increase your quota. So I'm just wondering, what has been your experience with that, and what do you think about it?
So I had experience with that, and my experience with that is that it happens when the company was lacking leadership accountability, like it was HR pushing, and not really the leaders. So the message was not really flowing, meaning that we put D&I programs. We talked about talent pipeline when we do people review. We put women. We make sure that we support them to be promoted. And then one day a woman is promoted and in the corridor, it's because she's black and she's a woman. And because people are, the people are not always convinced about that. They really think that this is for the quota. They really think that it's because it's a nice to have. But I think it's also, from my experience, we are missing the message from the leadership. And for me, it's for gender diversity, but it's for any kind of diversity, and it's also when it comes to sustainability, for example. If you, for example, say we want to be more sustainable, like environmentally, for example, and you do the things because you need to comply with the laws, for me, we are missing some things. For me, it's that's why it's also taking time. It's really a transformation, a personal transformation, and the leaders needs to be convinced. And if the leader is not saying anything, then obviously outside people will talk in the corridor. And I think this is also why there is a gender fatigue. And this is also why now, if you look what is happening in some big tech companies, where they just say, we remove everything, like people they will think, we know. Yeah, we knew. It was just, it was not really something deeply rooted in the company. But we should continue the efforts. Yeah, and yeah.
Simply, I'm convinced also you can make the same switch to the other topics of business sustainability and responsibility. We are at the beginning, we are not at the end at all. So the question is, do we have the courage? There is a certain fatigue, but I say, no, I go on. Let's not give up, because cultural changes, you know that also in companies it's difficult, in society it takes centuries. So we have achieved quite a bit. We have certain backslashes, And someone told that us also in sustainability, we had this hype, now it's going down, and it will become some when. And don't give up and challenge men. I say that to all women I meet. Challenge men, be as sometimes unfriendly as they are. Yeah, that's one of the problems we have, that it's cultural. It's cultural. It doesn't even not unfriendly, but be direct, speak up, impose yourself. Don't be afraid, because we men have to learn that.
Yeah, sometimes I feel like also our feeling, if it doesn't feel right, it's not because of us. We have to speak up and say it to the others, so who's around. Thank you very much. There is another question, or?
Was there another question? I thought I saw.
Okay, there's a question here. Otherwise, I'd have one afterwards.
I think I will be seating you. Sveta Banerjee, Impact Investing Solutions. And I just want to thank the whole panelists, because it really touched my heart. Every one of you is actually trying to change the best you can, right? And I mean, you need to feel the energy in this room. It's full of love, okay? So I think we need to dive one level deeper. I'm in impact investing since 10 years, but I realized that, okay, even in impact investing, there is so much bullshit, I'm sorry, but no, really. And from different stakeholders, we work with governments, we work with investors, businesses, and academia as well. So everyone is trying to make impact on the surface to look good. And there are many hypocrites around, you know. And what I agree with you, Antonio, that you need to start with yourself, take off your mask, do real impact on all possible levels of your life, from food diet, investment, working, and many, many things you can do. And what you can't do it, okay? I don't have billions, I cannot just give it to projects which do real impact, but I can do many things. And every one of you can do that, right? And diving deeper into consciousness elevation, to the unity consciousness, what you were trying to say, Antonio, we cannot do it alone. The banks, entrepreneurs, United Nations, it's impossible. Only when we come together, then we can make a real difference. Okay, sorry, not preaching again. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, Sveta. Any additional questions or comments? Yes. Okay. You first?
Yeah, hi.
Tell your name.
I'm Serena from Dormakaba. I just wanted to ask Natalie, and the entire panel, what do you think about the EU taxonomy? Were you excited about it as a way of channeling investment into more responsible activities? And how do you feel about the possibility of it becoming a voluntary standard now? Thank you.
So first, I'm not an expert in EU taxonomy, so we have a compliance for that, and I'm really happy about it because it's so complicated, and that's the first thing I want to say about it. It's complicated, and I mean, it's a nice try. You need to give some guidelines, but I don't know if it's the perfect thing to do. And regarding that it's not, compulsory anymore, so it's just a guideline, and you can do it or not. Yeah, I mean, it's the same in Switzerland. We have those Swiss sustainability scores for banks, and I don't know if you guys heard of it, but not a lot of people did. And it's also, you don't have to have it, but you can it's nice to have, but not a must-have. And this doesn't help. We need to hold banks reliable for their investments and their credits they give. So, yeah, I don't think it's a good idea, but let's see what the regulators have in mind now. No.
Yeah, I can ask a question. Annemarie, first of all, and this is actually a question for all of you. Thank you, Antonio, for being so uplifting and to present us with a positive outlook on the world. My question would be, what kind of micro actions do you take to be heard with the issues now? Do you adapt your communication policies to what is daily happening in our world, or do you have different strategies where to basically be heard and to spread the word, basically? Thank you.
Well, I can say from ours, we are in strong discussions now internally, and internally means within the UN Global Compact family, we're some 1,500 people, because what is happening is a challenge and a threat and an opportunity. So we are really trying to align, and again, that's what I learned. Be aware, realize what is happening, do not overreact, but act. And we are now in the process where we think about what is our message to our participants, that's the first audience, and then maybe to our governments. And we align that together with Antonio Gutierrez, because it has to be in line, otherwise we get a problem. And that's tricky, but we will do it. So that's what we are planning right now. So we will not be quiet, we will speak up.
Say something first? Please. So, I mean, we are in contact with our clients almost every day. We try to keep an optimistic attitude, but we really push the transparency. So we build our own reporting tool for sustainable and impact investing. It's called Globalance World, and it's now open for everyone. So everyone can basically upload their portfolio and measure the impact or the sustainability of their portfolio. So we think it's really important that we have to push transparency and hold people accountable. And it was also for us, when we started with this reporting tool, I mean, we had to let our pants down as well, because the first portfolios on the platform were ours. And yeah, you have to be a good example and a good role model. And I think this will also help.
So me, I'm an entrepreneur, so I'm alone. But I'm an entrepreneur, and I'm also a citizen. So there are few things I'm doing. Like tonight, I'm also, I would say, sharing my thoughts on social media, especially LinkedIn. And I'm always authentic. So it means that with my clients, I don't change where I am just to get business. Even if I'm an entrepreneur. So, and even if the topic is not about gender diversity or sustainability, there is always a link. So the way I'm delivering my workshop and my trainings are based on my values and my principles. And I'm also, when it comes to sustainability, I found gender diversity is part of it, by the way, but I'm also facilitating workshops. Maybe you have heard of it. It's the climate fresk, and I'm also doing that in privately and also in companies. And the outcome is what actions you can take personally and in the company now that you are aware. Every day in my private life, I try also to share what I think, and also to say to people that you mentioned, like, ask questions about the pension fund. It's also every day we pay. We are a consumer, so yeah. Personally, I don't order from Amazon because yes, I'm not convinced by the way they do business, for example. So every day you can vote for a certain model of economy.
Okay. Thank you very much. So we have covered a lot of ground here, I would say, and time-wise, I think we're good. We start a bit later. I would like to thank a lot the panelists for your precious insights. I would like to thank everybody here in the room. I'd like to hand over quickly to Marta for some closing remarks.
Marta and Antonio. Antonio, you go first. You spoke enough.
You finished. Okay, all right. Thank you very much.
All right. Well, on behalf of Antonio and myself, we would like to thank all the guests tonight for coming here. It was really a pleasure to host this event with two organizations that are truly value-aligned, and I appreciate that you were explaining the broader concept of the SDGs and obviously the framework of the UN Global Compact. So we had a lot of really interesting quotes tonight. What struck me was with Antonio, is if you don't believe in anything, you cannot change something. I think that's a very, very strong quote, which I'm for sure going to use tomorrow in my LinkedIn post, if you allow me, next to other really important quotes from Natalie and Shira, which were much longer, so I cannot recall them, excuse me. They were very technical. We are here tonight because we are all change makers, right? And we are breaking silos. We don't have only bankers in the room. We have people from all different industries, and we have to talk together in order to find solutions. So that's why I appreciate also this interdisciplinary panel. We have run over time. If I may announce the upcoming event on March 4th, the role and impact of women in media. You're all invited to come. We are going to speak about, now even more so, how the landscape changes and how are women portrayed and how is media portrayed if most of the owners of media companies are actually men, and how are women represented and what kind of impact it has on the world. So please join us. The UNGC network is invited to come for free. I will speak to Antonio how we can facilitate that, and with that, Antonio.
No, thank you. Thank you. I feel well among women, to be honest. My team, we are finally have one man in the team. For years we didn't have. Luana is sitting there. If you have a question to the UN Global Compact, just contact her. No, thanks. It's a pleasure, and I hope we go on to organize certain events together. And yeah.
Absolutely. We also have a man volunteer. I want to say that as well, in case, we foster also this collaboration between men. Okay, thank you so much to the panel, to the distinguished panel. Thank you for making it. And please mingle and join and network. Have a nice evening and see you hopefully soon.
Thank you, everybody.